On to the NFL portion of the podcast. We're going to be tiering every single starting quarterback in the NFL, AFC, and NFC. But before that, some star players could be on the move this offseason.
Got me there.
One of the star players being Mr. Maxx Crosby, who was on a podcast with Caleb Williams.
Friendly.
Really galleon, having a great time.
It's Caleb.
Caleb, great guest.
I'm with you, bro.
And now it's led to some speculation that maybe he could be in Chicago because on Polymarket, where will Maxx Crosby play in 2026? Chicago has a 30% chance, according to the public, for Maxx Crosby to go to the Bears this offseason. It would definitely help out the defensive line room.
30% is nuts.
Now, taking into account this Polymarket market with Maxx Crosby, he is going to be one of the names that we're going to be using in this segment to try to dictate where we think these stars are going to go. So let's start on offense first. These are the potential names that could be on the move. You have A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., Jalen Waddle. Of those players, who do you think is most likely to be moved? And if they do, to where?
Now, according to Polymarket or in my head?
In your head.
Okay, who do I think is most likely to be moved? A.J. Brown. The way that Nick Sirianni was talking, I get it. You're engaging with the media and you're kind of at times giving them what they want to hear. Whether it's a good idea, bad idea, that's not for discretion. But nevertheless, it seemed just the way that things had ended last season between the organization and him, it wasn't the greatest. The relationship between Nick Sirianni and him is also not the greatest. That kind of was made obvious when Nick was just like, he could be here, he may not be. I could be here, I may not be. You don't really know what's going on. Yeah, but I just think that the relationship's over. I think that it's gotten to a point where AJ would just be best for him to move on. Not best for the Eagles, truthfully. That's the cap?
$70 million.
70?
Yes.
For him?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not happening.
Yeah, $70 million.
Is that accurate?
A lot of Eagles fans are
I'll look it up.
referencing the same number. I would assume
70?
I would assume it's accurate.
For a receiver?
That's why we don't get too, he's not getting traded this year. But when they were talking about, he's not guaranteed to be here next year.
Okay.
And that's the
70 is ridiculous. I will shut up.
Yeah, no,
and then
he's
I will,
right.
I will go and change my answer to Jalen Waddle because that's not happening.
If you release him before June 1st, $72 million in dead cap. If you trade him before June 1st, $43 million in dead cap. So, a little bit better, but not much.
Still not great.
And we had to pay a lot of our defensive guys. So.
Okay, I completely take back my statement, and shame on me for not knowing that. Nevertheless, I will go to Jalen Waddle because the Dolphins are already cleaning house.
Yeah.
And maybe it's still not the greatest idea to just trade everybody. As a Bronco fan, I would love Jalen Waddle, but I would like Devon Achane just slightly bit more. But Waddle, it just seems like this is another player that has a decent-sized contract that it just seems like, yes, you're in the business of keeping talent, but you're also in the business of kind of starting fresh. And I think that's why I would lean Waddle.
I think the easy answer is DJ Moore. You have Romaduze breaking out.
True.
You have Luther Burden, who's coming up.
Amen.
And then you have Loveland, who's there. Those are three young players.
Okay.
None of them has got paid yet. No, not even close.
Nope.
So you have three guys on rookie deals. DJ Moore seems like the odd man out, the older guy. Doesn't really fit well with Caleb. Easiest guy to move. I think Jalen Waddle makes sense for sure. He's a guy who, like I said, Miami's cleaning house. He's still a top-end talent. I think he's, 26, 27 years old. If he's healthy, he can be a 1K receiver. He gives you a ton of speed on the outside. They didn't move him at the deadline, and teams were offering a first, so I don't know how. I don't know how fast they'd be able to move him now. You still need something out there. But I think for me, it'd be DJ Moore. I think he's the easier guy. Probably get like a third or fourth round pick for him. Teams like Buffalo, Kansas City maybe, or maybe Baltimore probably be calling that need an extra wide receiver. And he could be a guy that's a vet presence in the locker room.
Yeah, DJ Moore is probably the easiest out of this bunch to move because I think if you're Chicago, number one, you save money if you trade him before June 1st, $16 million in cap savings, do get $12 million dead cap hit. In terms of some of the lackadaisical play that he has, time to time, I know a lot of Chicago fans call that out. And like Riv mentioned, you have so many other receivers and weapons there that you feel really good about, right? You feel pretty solid, I think, if you had Luther, Rome, and Loveland also having Cole Kmet, who might be a trade candidate in his own right. I think you feel pretty good about that room with the offensive line and Caleb and the running backs, that DJ Moore is probably expendable. And we could talk about potentially a team where they could get a little something for him, maybe with the draft pick. But I do think he fetches, I think Rivers are about right. 3rd round, 4th round pick. Maybe it's a little bit less because we do see veteran receivers sometimes go for cheaper. But with that being said, it has been a more expensive market recently. Jalen Waddle is interesting because during the deadline, they wanted 2 firsts for him. But this was also a different regime, right? This was before they have new coach, new GM. I would imagine they probably value him about the same. The only reason I think he stays in Miami is just because of the lack of weapons they have, right? It's Achane and it's Jalen Waddle. And it's a bunch of guys you probably don't trust, right? Malik Washington and Darren Wallers of the world. And it's going to be interesting to see what Devon Achane looks like in a non-Mike McDaniel offense. We know how explosive he is. We know how great he is as a pass catcher. But Mike McDaniel was really getting him involved constantly in the offense, lining him out wide, getting him touches in the backfield, screen game that we don't really know what it's going to look like, with this new regime, this new coaching staff. So I think DJ Moore is the most likely to get moved. I think Waddle's safe just because of the lack of weapons. I think AJ's safe because of the big cap hit. And Brian Thomas, I don't see him getting moved because
can't be bought on that.
While they have a lot of weapons,
At least not yet.
they also would be one injury away from being like, shit, we have nothing. Like if you trade Brian Thomas, all of a sudden Jacoby Myers tweaks an ankle and he's out for a month. Parker Washington's your one. And like, you know what I mean? Then it's him and
Hunter.
It's Hunter playing some snaps.
Travis
and
coming off an injury too, right?
And all of a sudden your room looks really weak. You have really good depth there. You don't have to pay anybody, or at least Brian Thomas that is yet. So to me, it would still be DJ Moore.
I think DJ Moore is the perfect trade candidate for the Raiders. I think the Raiders.
So I was insinuating, brother.
Maxx Crosby to the Bears, and then the Bears send out DJ Moore and a 1st round pick.
There you go.
The Raiders get 2 1st round picks in this draft. The first one being used on Mendoza, then the second one being used on an offensive lineman, some defensive help, whatever they want to use it on. I think that makes sense because now you add a receiver in DJ Moore to help Fernando Mendoza out. They lost a reliable one in Jacoby Myers when they traded him at the deadline. And now you have Bowers, DJ Moore. You're starting to build somewhat of an infrastructure, Ashton Genty. And then it's just about fixing the offensive line. Like, I think the Raiders are the team that they should be all in on getting Tyler Linderbaum. They should be all in on improving that offensive line so they make sure that Fernando Mendoza is protected and the running game can also flourish. And Clint Kubiak also had some comments on Ashton Genty and wanting another back with him and having a committee, running back by committee. Because, I mean, it makes sense. You don't want to put all that wear and tear on one player. Mm-hmm. So
he got 10 touches.
I think it's fair. So Maxx Crosby would be my player to go to the Bears, DJ Moore to the Raiders. And then on defense, these are other candidates that could get moved. We talk about Maxx Crosby. Myles Garrett, who is kind of like in rumors all the time, but
I don't think he gets moved.
He just got paid, probably not going to get moved. Minkah Fitzpatrick has come up in some conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trent McDuffie, while there's been no reporting, just based on the Chiefs' history, they didn't keep Charvarius Ward. They didn't keep L'Jarius Sneed. And Trent McDuffie is due to get paid soon. And who's to say that Kansas City might want to move off of him as well so they don't pay top of the market money for him?
Issue is they don't have a L'Jarius Sneed waiting after Charvarius Ward, and they don't have a Trent McDuffie waiting after L'Jarius Sneed this time. They don't have that option. So I think that they are going to stick with Trent. I think Myles Garrett is definitely not getting moved. That's just an easy one. And the second name you listed was off the top of Minkah. That's an easy one too. It just seems after 1 year, it was a weird move in the first place to trade off of Ramsey to get to Minkah. Again, this is a team that's rebuilding. This is a team that's trying to start from scratch. And for the same logic that I used for Waddle, it makes even more sense for Minkah, who's older.
Yeah, I think the McDuffie thing is interesting just because the lack of cap space that the Chiefs have, right? They're already $6 million over. They can make some restructures. I think they've already restructured Mahomes. So his cap number went down from 78 to 34. But even still, like they're not going to have a ton of money. So I do have a couple destinations for these players. If McDuffie is available, I think the Rams should be all over him.
Easily.
That's the one place where their secondary definitely lacks. We know how great the front seven is. That defensive line is awesome. But their secondary, they just don't have a star number one, or I think multiple players that you really trust. And we know how great they are when, without that. So I think McDuffie becomes available. The Rams, I think Minka Fitzpatrick will definitely be available just because of the state of the organization. I had 2 teams for him. I think the Bengals should be calling. I think this is going to be an aggressive offseason for them. You hear some of the rumblings about Joe Burrow. We've talked about that in the past. I think you need to get a bit aggressive. And even though Minka isn't the player he probably once was, I think he's definitely an upgrade over what they have just in terms of the secondary. And the other team would be the Philly. I think Philly is still, even with the, a little bit strapped with cash, the AJ Brown situation, I still think Howie Roseman, with about the $20 million that they have in cap space, is going to try to make a swing. We know he likes going after veterans.
And you got to pay Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, Reed is a free agent. I think you bring in Minka just as a bit of a Band-Aid, 1 or 2 year thing. And who knows, maybe when he gets to Philly, he's like, I could compete for a championship. Maybe I'll take a bit of a pay cut here too. So those are the couple of spaces I see. I don't think Miles gets moved. And Maxx Crosby, Chicago would be my number 1 fit for him.
I think Cincinnati should be all over both of them. Trent McDuffie and Minka.
They should be over everybody.
I think a sneaky guy that I haven't heard any reports, but just don't count it out, is Hendrickson from Cincinnati. Like, he was a guy who has been in rumors talking about not getting paid and stuff like that. Just don't sleep. But I think Buffalo also should be another team on those guys too. Like, you need secondary help. Tre'Davious White had a good year last year. Can't rely on him. Can't rely on him, unfortunately. Benford, Teron Johnson, they feel like they're always banged up. They always start a game, don't finish a game. They also need safety help too. Ever since they lost Hyde and Poyer, they haven't really had the additions at the safety position.
They were fucking locked though.
Yeah, no, them two were dogs.
Jesus.
But Rapp and Bishop, a little bit inexperienced. He was a rookie last year, or year 2 player, something like that. He's extremely young. So I'll be looking at Minka too. There's a lot of teams I think that will have suitors for Waddle and Minka. I think Miami, if they just if they press the right buttons, you can get a couple good assets for them.
I just wonder what the trade for McDuffie would be, because I look at the Cowboys and the Rams. They both have 2 first-round picks. The Rams feel like the more obvious spot because the Cowboys have more players they need to pay. Pickens is about to make like $30 million a year.
They're about to franchise tag him.
Yeah, you're paying him a lot, and they have to re-sign Brandon Aubrey as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rams feel like the destination for Trent McDuffie, but I wonder if it's going to be that first-round pick that's pick 14, or that's going to be that late first at the bottom of the first round. Because I think that the Chiefs, if they do get that pick, I mean, they're not the overall pick, or I think it's 10th, whatever. The first pick that they have that they own, they can use that either on an offensive weapon, help Mahomes out, on a defensive player, and then that other pick they can use to get a corner. Because with Jalen Watson, no Williams, I think one more corner, they kind of solidifies that room. It would make sense for them, but then you're the Rams and you're thinking, I mean, why trade for McDuffie when I can just draft Jermod McCoy and with the 14th overall pick? And he might not be McDuffie like right away, but he has a really high ceiling. So
McDuffie's young.
Or do both. Maybe get into Caleb Down sweepstakes and get I don't know. The Rams should be. We don't know how many years Stafford has left. If you could get 2 high impact players in the secondary, that's the one area that you're looking at. Like, we really need to improve.
And their defense is young.
Their defense is also. Yeah.
I mean, they can make McDuffie. The defense is
rookie deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's damn.
That's the only thing they lack right now is corner.
Yep.
So if they get McDuffie, it'll be up.